Hey, everybody. Happy Chenin Blanc night. Let me know, Anna, now that I'm speaking, let me know if you still can't hear me. I like to give everybody a minute or two to filter in. So, hi, I'm Molly. I'm the owner of Table Wine. Hi, Rachel. Okay, good. Yay. From the names that I saw on the sign up, I think I know almost all of you personally, but if for some reason we haven't met, I'm Molly, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be talking about Chenin Blanc. Oh, hey! Oh, look at that. Hi, friends. How are you guys? I'm so excited. Oh, this just got better. You're all in for a treat because I get giddy when I'm pouring Sean and Peter wine, so yay. If you haven't joined us for class before, and you somehow haven't discovered the chat, there's the chat on the right-hand side. Use it, please. It's how we're able to make these classes dynamic and interesting for everybody. At least I hope they are. So ask questions as we're going. When it comes time to tasting, this is where, you can kind of shout out what you're tasting or smelling. Everything is fair game, as I say. So really, honestly, ask away. Give me ideas. Throw out what you're tasting. If you haven't filled out the poll yet, that would be wonderful for you to do. It's just down there on the bottom. I just use it as kind of a gauge to kind of see where people are. So from the looks of it, it's like some of you sometimes drink it. We only have one diehard Chenin Blanc lover besides myself, and plenty of folks who are not sure they've had it. So hey, at the end of this hour, you will have had 3. So there you go. That's fun and exciting. I think that's the only housekeeping stuff. So let's dig in and talk about Chenin Blanc. I'm going to share my screen. I don't do too heavy of a slide presentation because, because I used to work at a software company, and I think that you probably all have looked at screens enough during the day. So that is not my job. That there are more fun things that you can do. So like drinking. So, but there's some information here for you. So kind of fundamental information. These are the list of the most common flavors and aromas when it comes to Chenin Blanc. I put this here to spark something, to help you as you're tasting, to give you some sense of where you're headed. It's by no means a finite list of things that you can smell and taste. If you smell or taste something tonight that's not on this list, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just, these are just here to kind of get you thinking and kind of tell you where in the whole big world of wine we're gonna land. So you'll notice there are a lot of different fruit flavors and aromas listed. Things like citrus, things like tropical fruits, more traditional tree fruits. So really, you kind of have that whole, all of those groups are totally fair game. Minerality will come into play with at least one of these wines. And then things like spice, flowers, those also come up. And I listed some more specific flowers than just floral, because I do think when it comes to Chenin Blanc specifically, you can pick up on more particular flowers than just the kind of the bucket of white flowers often gets used, or floral gets used. And that's totally fair too. And sometimes that's the most accurate thing you can say, but sometimes you can really get to that smells like an orange blossom. And then I do have listed here some of the oak notes, things like nuts, brioche, taking the lemon thing from fruit and kind of adding in that kind of creamy elements of lemon curd. None of the wines that we are tasting tonight are aged in oak. So I would be surprised if any of these come up for you, but they do exist within the world of Chenin Blanc. So that's why I include here. Some general characteristics of Chenin, because it seems like a fair number of you haven't had it, or maybe haven't been mindful of you having it. Things to know: it's light in body. It has medium to high acidity, and that kind of differs both where in the world it comes from and just general winemaking styles. But it is kind of on the higher end of acidity. It's very similar to Riesling in terms of fruit being its most prominent flavor and aroma, right? I showed you all of those different fruits. That's going to be the thing about Chenin Blanc is its fruitiness. And then like Riesling, it can be super bone dry and very, very sweet and all places along the way. We are going from bone dry to off dry. So we're kind of staying, if we thought about it as like a five stop road, we're doing stops 1 through 3. We're not venturing into really sweet territory tonight. I will have more specific food pairings for each of these wines as we go through the 3, but just things to know about Chenin Blanc in general is that it's going to definitely vary as to what to pair with it, depending on, no, you don't need to pour anything, Anna. I'll let you know. You don't need to do anything at all. Just if you want to pour yourself some South African, you absolutely can. But for now, just chill for a few more minutes and then I'll tell you when to drink. So for food pairings, it's definitely going to vary. The kind of the overarching thing that you can know when you're pairing Chenin with food is that it works with sweet and sour dishes. So things that are kind of like, oh no, don't apologize. It's all good. It's all good. We're all friends here. Like Chenin, where it has some fruitiness and some acidity, a dish that has some sweet element and some kind of tart or acidic element. Those are kind of where it really shines in terms of food pairing perspective. I wanted to share this with you guys before we started, because I do know that sweetness is very subjective, and I talk about it a lot in various wine classes. And I've taught an entire class just about sweetness, but I wanted to give you guys kind of a sense of what we're talking about when I'm saying that we're going to go from bone dry to off dry. This is kind of where we're living tonight. So we're staying on the 0 grams of residual sugar, a few grams of residual sugar, and then the most that we're going to taste is 11 grams of residual sugar. So that's this guy right here. And that's just over the cusp of off dry. So it's like the cusp is 10. And the one from California that we're going to taste is 11. So it's really close to that line. So I put this here in case it's helpful for you to kind of visualize like how sweet are things. And let me know if you ever want me to come back to this slide as we start drinking and tasting and talking about stuff. If you want me to come back and visit this again, I'm happy to, but it's here just to kind of ground you in what are we talking about when we're talking about sweet. It's not super, super sweet. So, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make myself big for a second. Any questions about Chenin Blanc, generally speaking? Okay. Really? Okay, I believe you. Okay. How many different names does it have? That's a great question. It doesn't have that many different names. It's not one of the grapes that kind of goes by, a million different names depending on where it's grown. Part of the reason why that it doesn't part of the reason why that it doesn't have so many different names is that it's not grown in a lot of non-English speaking countries. So we'll talk about the history a little bit when we get to France. It started in France, and then it's grown in a lot of the New World. So it's not like something that's in Italy and Spain. So often when you see like Grenache is the one that always comes to mind. Grenache goes by like 40 different names, and Grenache goes by 40 different names because of where in the world it's grown, and then they have their own dialect, and then they change the name. So the grape is Chenin Blanc. So that, I hope that answers your question, Sarah. Like the grape, it's like Chardonnay, it's like Riesling, it's like Pinot Noir. It's the name of the grape is Chenin Blanc. Kristen and Patty asked like Vouvray, like Saumur. Those are the names of the places in France. So that's more a French wine convention than a name of Chenin Blanc. So let's pause on that. If that's like, that didn't quite sink in. Let's pause on that and talk about it more when we get to France. So let's get you some wine in your glasses if you don't have it already. So now pour yourselves some South African. The French do like being special. The French are super special. Don't you know that yet? So South African Chenin Blanc. Here are some fun things to know about it. Chenin Blanc is the most widely grown grape in South Africa. And South Africa accounts for 50% of the world's Chenin Blanc production. So it's like a really, really, really big deal there. Interestingly, I am teaching South Africa class next Thursday. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, join us because it's going to be awesome. I made the executive decision that we're not going to drink Chenin Blanc next week. So I decided that we're going to drink Chenin Blanc tonight, and we're going to talk about South African Chenin Blanc this evening. And that next week, because we only do 3 wines, I didn't feel like it made sense for those of you who are joining us for both. I was like, well, you will have just tasted South African Sauv Blanc, or Chenin Blanc, pardon me. Sorry, Chenin Blanc. So heads up, there will not be a repeat with next week. So you should tell Sean that he missed out by skipping tonight. So South African Chenin Blanc, it's super important to them. The most prominent flavors and aromas are definite fruit, typically more tree fruit and citrus, not so much of the tropical fruit, less of that like passion fruit and stuff like that, much more citrus and mineral. That comes up a lot. It's typical in South Africa that Chenin Blancs are made where they are fermented until they're dry. So they're fermented till the sugars are either almost all gone or totally gone. That's not 100% true. So remember this right now. I'm telling you this right now. Not all Chenin Blanc from South Africa is dry. Not all Chenin Blanc from South Africa is sweet. So if you've had sweet South African Chenin Blanc and you've not enjoyed it, hey, there's this whole big world out there. If you tasted this wine tonight and you're like, this is really dry, then there are other ones for you to try. Kathleen, what vinified to dry means is what I just said, where it's fermented until it's dried. So I worried about that language. As soon as I wrote that, I was like, is that going to just be wine speak? So vinified is the process of making wine. So meaning that it is fermented until the sugars are gone. So dry. South Africa geography stuff. It's Chenin Blanc, as I said, is super important. You're welcome. It's grown in all of the major wine regions in South Africa. So if and when you can ever travel to South Africa, you will find Chenin Blanc pretty much everywhere you go. And it is kind of their house white. So you're going to find it everywhere in the same way that here in the States, when you go to a restaurant of maybe, well, really of any caliber, you know that there's almost indefinitely or almost invariably going to be a Chardonnay on their glass list. Chenin Blanc is that in South Africa. So it is really everywhere. South Africa, climate-wise, qualifies as warm. It's a warm climate for the most part. I think that there are some pockets. I haven't done all of my work yet for next week, but typically speaking, it qualifies as a warm climate. So food pairing ideas are listed there, and they are specific to this wine. So if you haven't started drinking yet, start drinking. This is the Blackwater Underdog. Fun things about this wine are that it has 0 grams of residual sugar. So it is as dry as a wine can get. This is super, super dry. And it might be a lot drier than things you normally drink. So try it and see what you think. Blackwater does what is kind of classified as this kind of squishy term, low intervention. So they're not technically like a natural winemaker, but they're as hands-off as they can. So they don't add any sulfur for preserving the wine, which might lead you to notice that it doesn't smell like this super fruity bouquet. And then they use as sustainable practices as they possibly can, both in the vineyards and in the winery. So. Ginger, I like that. That's cool. Annalise, I'm so glad you like this wine. I feel like you know this wine already. Is that right? Yeah, I thought so. I wondered about some folks. Like I was like, well, I don't know if you've had it or not before. You're having it now. This is what it tastes like tonight. So interesting, this ginger thing. I can't say that I'm picking up on it myself, but I love that you guys are. So that's great. Is everybody's mouth watering? I assume that it is. This wine is, I haven't had this wine in a while, and it's just like so, the acidity is so good. Such a great tingle. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I personally get like a lot of citrus. I would agree with like the kind of peachy or apricot-y notes to it. I don't want to tell you what to taste. Tangerine. Ooh, I like that. Yes. Yeah. Tangerine and ginger, man. That sounds delicious. Who doesn't want that? I definitely get a saltiness to it. It's not as overt as some other wines that are like super, super briny, but at least for me, it's like that kind of mouth-watering quality about it. Reminds me almost of like preserved lemon, like salty lemon, where it's like both salty and citrusy. So that's that kind of like minerality and citrus. Oh, cool. Yay. Oh, good. I'm not all alone in my salt world. Sometimes I'm like, I really like salty wines, and I feel like I might seek it out in wine. So yay. I'm glad I'm not all alone. Well, it looks like plenty of folks are loving it. Is there anyone who's tasting this and is like, whoa, that is not what I want? I like how the citrus isn't too sweet. Yeah. So that's what I love about Chenin Blanc, is that it can be fruity without being sweet. And that's what I think is just like so delightful, because so often in our minds, when we have something that's fruity, it's like instant, like, well, look how sweet it is. And like, this is definitely not that at all. Yay. I'm glad you guys are big fans. There's another Chenin Blanc from South Africa that we almost always have on the shelf, which is called Lubanzi. And I think a lot of you have had it before. And I wanted to make sure that I poured a new Chenin Blanc, or a Chenin Blanc that would be new to most folks. So I brought this back. We haven't carried this in at least a year. And tasting it again, I'm just like, oh, right. I love this wine. This wine is delicious. This wine actually like paved the way for the Lubanzi. But then the Lubanzi just kind of had like a bigger following. So yay, I'm glad. Yes. Alexis, we're going to end in California, and we will definitely talk. It's super different. And there are Chenin Blancs from South Africa that are way sweeter, that I would say, like, some of the names that kind of immediately come to mind are Robertson, Man Vintners. Those are wines that you can probably find at most grocery stores. And they're sweeter. They're yummy in their own right. They're definitely like porch pounders, but I feel like you're aware of the headache you're going to get. Like, I feel like they're just like, oh yeah, that has the sugar. Whereas this doesn't quite it doesn't feel like an instant headache, but it is, I say that only because I feel like those wines are a little bit more reminiscent of some California Chenin Blancs, whereas this is definitely different. You haven't heard Porch Pounder? Oh my gosh, seriously? I think you drink too much red wine. I must not talk to you about Porch Pounders. There are other people here tonight who we've definitely talked about Porch Pounders before. Questions? Summer Sipper. Oh, see, that sounds very sophisticated. I like Summer Sipper. That's lovely. I'm always amazed when I meet with winemakers and they talk to me about their Porch Pounders or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, this is the one that we just like sit and glue on a Tuesday night kind of thing. And oh yeah, slammable. Yeah, that's totally your word. Slammable. But when winemakers are talking to me about their slammable ones, their, you know, whatever, their things. And it's like, you know, I don't know, like a $40 bottle of wine, then I'm like, well, that's cool for you because you own the winery. But I think most people, when they spend that kind of money on a bottle of wine, they want to like slightly pay attention to it. So, yeah. Questions before we leave South Africa. You've all tasted it now. You can see that acidity and that citrus. It pairs super beautifully with shellfish. If you like that kind of, if you picked up on the salty thing at all, or you like that salty quality about it, you could play that up in some fashion with your cooking, or you can like kind of let it stand in. I mean, not like don't salt the food, but, you know, like kind of like let it do the work that the salt would normally do. So, questions, thoughts? I'm having to remind myself to drink water because these wines are so drinkable that I'm like, oh, right, I'm at work. You all should drink as much as you want, but I'm working. All right. Yeah, we're going to leave South Africa. Okay. France. So France is the birthplace of Chenin Blanc. It is thought to be, there's not hard evidence, but it's thought to be a field mutation that happened in the Loire Valley of a relatively obscure grape there called Savigny. So it's kind of the birthplace. France is the birthplace of Chenin Blanc. And within France, it's really the Loire Valley that we're talking about. So it is grown a little bit further south from the Loire, but it really it's really just this 100-mile stretch in relatively the center of France where Chenin Blanc is grown. Things that you can definitely expect from French Chenin. I keep like stumbling. I keep saying Sauv Blanc in my head. Chenin Blanc. The tree fruit flavors are a little bit more prominent here, as are tropical fruit flavors. So the citrus dies down a little bit, and it's more the like kind of apple and pear and those kinds of flavors. All of the other things, the non-fruit things, kind of come up more here. So I think you'll find more flowers, more spice, more minerals, like kind of all of those things. It's kind of the same story with all three of the places that we're visiting tonight, where the sweetness is going to vary depending on what the winemakers are going for. But if you really love Chenin Blanc, and particularly love French Chenin Blanc, you can start to get to know the parts of the Loire Valley, the subregions of the Loire Valley, and what they are known for. Are they known for the dry style of Chenin? Are they known for a sweeter style? And you can really geek out and start to really like know those regions and shop based on region if you want to be super Chenin Blanc nerds about it, which I would definitely support. So the question came up at the beginning about like the different names of it. So for those of you, if you don't have the wines that we picked out, I can show you. So this is the Lina Filiatro, and it is from the town of Saumur. So Saumur is kind of west central in the Loire Valley, if you can kind of picture that. Samore is actually an odd place in terms of the Loire Valley because it makes more red wine, and that's very, very rare in Loire. But the white that is there is Chenin. So Samore is going to be the place name. It's not going to be the grape. However, if you see a white from Samore, it is going to be Chenin Blanc. It's going to be 90% Chenin Blanc. So you can feel safe if you pick up a white from this region that it's Chenin. I think the most notable one, I know a lot of you said that you weren't sure if you've ever had Chenin Blanc before. If the word Vouvray sounds familiar, and I'll actually put it here in the notes. Vouvray is a region in the Loire Valley, and Chenin is the primary grape. So if you've ever had Vouvray before, if you've ever heard that, if anybody's ever brought a bottle of Vouvray over to a party and you've opened it and you've had no idea what the heck you were drinking, you were in fact drinking Chenin Blanc. I chose to not do Vouvray because I think that if you have had French Chenin Blanc, it almost definitely was Vouvray. So let's try something new. So this is Samore. And this is also from an organic, kind of hands-off winery. I know that that's important to a lot of you, and so I want to try to feature those wines in class as much as possible. This wine, well, I'll let you taste it first, and then I'll tell you more about the winemaking style. So taste, tell me what you think. Food pairing ideas, I can make this big again. I realize that it's August, so maybe you don't want to eat these things right now. But this wine is really, really delicious with roasted chicken, like a whole roasted chicken. It's amazing with Thanksgiving. And it's really, really good with stir fry that kind of has some fruit to it. So going back to that original idea where I said sweet and sour things that have some element of sweetness, but some tartness. So they're really... Apples and baking spice. Licorice? I mean, I don't think you're crazy. I'm gonna be supportive. I'm gonna say no. Of course you're not crazy. You smell it, don't you? That can be definitely fall into the bucket of the spice, right? So it can be pungent, like actual anise. It can be fennel, like a more vegetal thing. Yeah. See? There you go. Look, you've got friends. Fennel fronds. Oh my God, I totally get it now. See the power of suggestion, but I do. I totally smell fennel now. I wasn't there originally, but I'm there. I am there with you. And Amber said yellow apple. So like apple fennel salad, guys. I think that your meal has been created for you already with this wine. Right? Come on, doesn't that sound delicious? So you'll notice like still acidity, right? Our mouths are still watering. Oh, see, look, you have fennel, you're ready to go. You need to have some fennel with this. Your mouth is definitely still watering, I assume. Tell me if it's not. But it's not as laser-like as the underdog. It's not as like all, kind of like all of your salivary glands working at one time. One interesting thing about this wine, it is aged in stainless steel the same way that the underdog was, but it is aged on the lees. What that means is after the wine has fermented, the yeast particles filter down to the bottom, and those are called the lees, L-E-E-S. And usually in white wine production, the lees are filtered off as the wine ages. And certain wines, then they will age with the lees. And they do that, for the lushness, for that feeling. That's where that lushness, that roundness comes from aging on the lees. So I like this wine so much because it has that roundness without it being a big oak bomb, right? It's not big and creamy the way California Chardonnay is, but it does have a little bit more weight to it, which is why Alexis said a great fall wine. And I think you were saying that because of the spices, which is legit. But I also think that weight makes it a nice wine to kind of transition, right? So I think Underdog is right now, right? Like Underdog is August, sitting outside, drinking and not having to think too hard, right? And then this is like a little bit more of your fall wine when you feel like roasting something ever again. Pardon me. I think I had something go down the wrong pipe. Beyond Fennel, how are you guys feeling about it? Fuller bodied, a little lusher, happy, noticeably different, I assume. Oh, pardon me. Oh, good. Loving this one. Yay. Very different, but still happy. I'm so glad. Oh, yay. And I mentioned the sweetness thing. So the Underdog is 0%, or I'm sorry, 0 grams of residual sugar. And this, the 2018 of the Filiatro is 4 grams of residual sugar. And that's 4 grams per liter. So that's not even, there aren't even 4 grams of sugar in this whole bottle, right? Because this is a 750. So it's not even 4 whole grams. And I find this level of sweetness in a lot of wines to be more of a crowd pleaser. There's something nice about that small hint of sugar, whether you know it or not, right? We all like sweet things, although many of us have the perception that we don't like sweet things. Humans are wired to like sweet things. So just that little bit can really, like, I don't know, be kind of like the stepping stone for folks to enjoy wine a little bit more, but not super, super sweet. So it's kind of like that, like really pretty in between. Great. I'm glad you like this. I love the small hint of sweetness in this wine. I agree. And I love the weight. So I'm really glad that you guys are picking up on that. Alexis, I want to get to your, what is the type of cork is just a preference? Yeah, it is. The things about cork, screw caps are used by wineries, all around the world for wines that are intended to be drunk relatively soon. Now, even more, it's not, I don't necessarily want to say that it's marketing, but it's part of the mindset of a wine that you can take anywhere and drink any time. So with something like the Underdog, you can just, pop it open. In South Africa, sustainability is a really important tenet of wineries there. So often they lean towards screw caps more because resources are so hard to get in South Africa. So they lean more towards that. The Filiatro has this composite, if you guys don't have it there. So this is like this type of composite cork that is actually made from sugarcane. So it's a more sustainable cork than plastic, but it doesn't really like disintegrate. I'm quite surprised that this organic, really small winery in Loire has these corks. It feels to me like, knowing what I know about the business, it feels to me like their importer told them that they wanted these to make sure that the wines didn't get cork taint or anything like that. And then the Hush having a regular cork, it's California. I'm a little surprised that a wine of that price has a cork in California, but it's really just kind of a winemaker thing. Let me know if you want more, if I'm rambling about corks too much. I'm glad we have votes for liking that little bit of sweetness. I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know if any of you like even care, but I'm going to share an anecdote about drinking this wine. Do you guys know who Jacques Pepin is? The chef. He was like best friends with Julia Child. I'm going to assume that you do. Yay. Great. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. So like 2-ish years ago, Jacques Pepin came for a dinner at Sardine, and it was, I don't know if any of you were there, but there was this like very fancy tasting meal at Sardine, and the chefs from all restaurants like all around the city came and cooked for Jacques. And it was this really great fundraiser, and I thought about going, and then had sticker shock when I looked at the ticket prices, and then I was invited to go, which was really lovely. And so I got to go, which was great. And the meal was amazing. And why I say that I know this wine is great with, it was like super last minute. It was like such a last minute invitation. And I was like, sure, I'll go have dinner that, you know, has been prepared for Jacques Pepin and meet him and say hello and whatever. But we had roasted chicken, and they served this wine, and I immediately came back, and this was the only wine from Filiatro that I didn't carry at the time. Not because I didn't like it. I just didn't have it on the shelf, and I tasted it that night, and I was like, oh, this is my Jacques Pepin wine. So then I had it on the shelf. So some of you may have thrust this upon you and you didn't even know it, because I was just like so damn excited about that. So that's my happy story about the Samour. Before we leave France, questions, thoughts? Fun things about Chenin Blanc in France is that if you have sparkling wine from the Loire Valley and it is labeled Cremant de Loire, it is going to be Chenin Blanc. So you can definitely explore Chenin Blanc in bubbly form, which is really fun. Vouvray, you can make still or sparkling Vouvray, and it will just be labeled Vouvray. So I really do recommend that if you like Chenin Blanc and you enjoyed this some more, that we should talk more about Vouvray, and that there's a whole world of lovely French Chenins that are kind of in this style where they have a little bit more lushness. They might have a little bit more sweetness than the South African, but not quite as sweet as where we're about to head. Or maybe they are as sweet as where we're about to head, and they're damn delicious. So no shame. Kristen's like loaded up on Chenin Blanc. I love it. All right, we're going to leave France unless there are lingering questions. That was my Jacques Pepin story. So that's all I got for you guys. I'm keeping wines cold tonight instead of letting them just sit out on my table, because what happens is after class, I say to my darling spouse, hey, do you want some of the delicious wines that I poured for class? And he always is like, yeah, that's great. And I'm like, oh yeah, except they're super warm because they've been out of the fridge for more than an hour. And he's like, yeah, that's not so appealing. And he's going to get us food tonight. So I figure I can give the man cold wine. All right, are we good leaving France? All right, we're going to come to our friends in California. So, pour yourself some Hush if you haven't already. In California, it is warmer there than the Loire. So we went warm climate, stopped in the cool climate, and now we're back to warm. So typically with California Chenin, you get more citrus, less like apple and pear. So the apple and pear comes out when it's cold or cooler, and the citrus comes out more when it's warmer. If you're going to pick up on a tree fruit in Chenin Blanc in California, almost invariably it's going to be a stone fruit kind of tree fruit. So peach, white peach, apricot, any of those kind of fruits are fair game. And often in California, you will get oak notes. I, again, did not pick an oak Chenin from California tonight, really to give you to show you just the spectrum of sweetness, and to not really kind of let oak throw us off as well. So fun things about Chenin in California is that it has been grown there for so damn long. So it is, there are Chenin Blanc vines in California that are more than 100 years old, which by our standards here in the US is really old. I mean, that's really old, you know, in most wine places, because at a certain point, the vines just stop producing grapes. But the story is that there are some national brand cheap white wines that used to exist or still exist, but where they used Chenin Blanc. So there are some, you know, like Inglenook, if you guys know what Inglenook is. It's like cheap jug wine. I don't even know if they still make Inglenook, quite honestly, but they made a wine called Chablis, which is most definitely not from Chablis, France, and definitely not as good as that. And it was primarily Chenin Blanc. So there are these really old vines that winemakers now are rediscovering and falling in love with. And the reason that it's always been used in these inexpensive white blends is for that acid punch with that fruitiness. It's exactly the thing that we've been talking about. I read an analogy today of thinking of it like the squeeze of lime in a cocktail. That's what it adds to a white blend. It's that little bit to like brighten everything up and just give it that little hint of fruitiness. So that's why Chenin is so widely grown in California. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It is grown throughout the state, but for the most part, we're drinking from Mendocino. It's mostly Central Coast. So it's not going to be readily found in Napa or Sonoma, right? Those are places where it's the Chardonnay game. It might be the Sauvignon Blanc, little bit game, but they're not going to turn over, you know, that kind of very, very expensive land to something harder to sell like Chenin Blanc. Whereas in the Central Coast, they're like, hey man, let's try stuff. Let's see what's delicious. Let's grow what's good. So, so the food pairing ideas there are specific to this one, not just to any California Chenin, in case that wasn't clear. I love this wine with squash curry. So drink up if you haven't already. I agree with you, Alexis. The mouthfeel is fantastic. This is my first time having the 2019. We just got it in. We had the 2018 up until I ordered these wines last week for class. So I haven't tasted this new vintage. It's great. It has some really nice structure to it. So let's talk sweetness. So Hush, I love this about them. They're super honest. They're very forthcoming about the wine. So if you haven't noticed this, they tell you right here, residual sugar 1.1% by weight. So yeah, Rachel, yep, that's exactly right. So 1.1%, exactly, yep, it equals 11 grams on the chart. So I can scoot back there for just a hot second and make it big again. So South Africa here this is under 1 gram. So that was our South Africa, 1 to 10 grams. Our Filiatro is 4, and then off dry is 10 to 36. And so this is just 11. So like I said at the beginning, it's just over the cusp of that. But I love that they tell you that. No, I mean, I realize that the average person might not know what 1.1% by weight even means, but it's a quick Google search away what that information means. And then you have like some guidance as to how sweet it is. Because Chenin Blanc is such a huge varying grape, you know, I like that they give you something to go on, because otherwise it's a crapshoot, you know, like. Mm. To answer your question, Sarah, so a very sweet wine, let me bring this up. So it's going to be dessert wines. Dessert wines are really, I don't know if you can see that here. So dessert wines are really the only things that kind of qualify as that. So that's like port, ice wine, those kinds of wines. Even your sweetest darn Riesling, table Riesling, Riesling, not like a late harvest dessert wine. Even a very, very sweet one is going to fall into the sweet category or even off dry. Like, kind of amazing how not sweet certain things are. Super ripe for Kristen and Patty. Sweet cantaloupe. Ooh, I love that. Yeah, I think I'm with the team apricot, that like tart apricot. I think also the mouthfeel for me, is everybody getting something kind of like, you almost want to click your tongue against the roof of your mouth. That structure, that like reminds me of fuzzy peach skin, like when the skin itself is kind of, I don't know, tingling your mouth a bit. Is there anyone who's feeling like this level of sweetness is too much? Like, I was cool with Filiatro, but Hush is a little bit more than I want to do. It's okay if that's the answer. I'm just curious. Yay, Anna, look at you. You're like on a roll. That's great. Do you typically like sweet? Is like sweet is sweet wine your home base? It's not too much, but I think we know our limit is around 10 to 15 grams. Yeah, I would agree with, like, knowing your tastes, Rachel, I would say yes to what you just said. So yeah, I think you know yourselves. I've always thought you guys knew yourselves as drinkers. Alexis, of course you like the California. No, I'm guessing. I'm totally joking. No, I think that like there's the body thing. And I think, Anna's saying it too, like you like the mouthfeel of this wine. I think that for red wine folks, there's something a bit more satisfying about this glass of wine, right? There's more weight to it. There is more structure to it. And I was just looking, they're all really relatively similar in alcohol content. The Hush is 0.3% different than the other two. So really it's just the sweetness is like the biggest difference on these guys. It's not like one is way boozier than the other. So I do think that for a red wine person, the Hush just has a little bit more body to it, which is really fun. Really, really fun. I can't say that that's always been true. So yay, that's exciting. I was going to say that if it is a little too sweet for anybody, the food pairing ideas that I had listed, where you go with something a little spicy, with something like this, it can be just so delicious. So Thai food is really tasty with it. I think I mentioned squash curry specifically. I just like it with that. I just really enjoy it with this wine personally, but I think that like those kinds of something that has some heat to it can be really beautiful with something that has this amount of sweetness. I'm glad you enjoyed them all. I'm really glad. I am curious, what was there a fave? Some folks have told me what their favorites were. Now that you've tasted all three, is there a clear fave? Weigh in, let me know. If you like this and you want to explore other California Chenin Blancs, our biggest seller is Field Recordings Chenin. I think some of you have had it before. I love that wine. I think it's just absolutely stellar. When I've taught this class in the past, I've actually taught both Hush and Field Recordings. Field Recordings is aged in oak, so you can get a little bit more of the roundness and the body. I won't say that we have like a massive amount. I wouldn't say we have like dozens and dozens of Chenin Blanc at the shop, but if you are interested, it's something that, you know, we tend to have a few of from various places so that you can kind of get to know them and explore them a little bit. 3, 2, 1, impressed by 2. Yay, I'm glad. I love it. Okay, I love it. Do I have any bubbly Chenin right now? Yes, I do. From Beaumard. It is a Cremant de Loire. So yes, I do. Sorry, it took me a second there. It's so interesting. Side note, it's so interesting to teach classes from my house, because often when I'm teaching in person at the shop, right, I can scan the shelves and I can like have a visual reminder. And here I'm sitting and I'm like, have to like think and be like, what do we have? Oh, cool, Sarah. I'm so glad you liked them all. Yeah, I will echo what Rachel and John have said. I have a lot of customers who use Vivino and they really swear by it. Alexis, and I know some other folks are journal, like actually write things down, people. I think, you know, whatever you decide you want to use, I do think pictures help, because it can help you remember things, and getting to see the label can help. So whatever. Oh, and Kristen does both. My notes, I mean, like, I'm of absolutely no use. I use Evernote. So I don't actually have pictures. I just use Evernote, and mine are just like this like running bulleted list of every single thing that anybody tells me about the wine. When I opened the shop, I was doing it on paper because I like taking notes on paper, Alexis. I'm with you, and I like that. But then it was really hard when I was like, ooh, I tasted that some more 7 months ago, maybe, or was it 9 months ago, or I don't know. And it was like really hard for me to find things. So I switched over to Evernote, so now I can search things. So 213 for Annalise. So she likes the Filiatro the most. I like it. I love it. So we're like all over the place. I think every wine is represented by being somebody's favorite. So I'm glad. And John's favorite is French, but it's not this French. It's the Anjou Blanc, which is also super delicious. What should you keep drinking with your red takeout tonight? I don't think that you can go wrong. I think any of the 3 of them are going to be tasty with it. I think that if you are the kind of load up the wasabi types of sushi drinkers, wouldn't that be amazing? Sushi eaters, I would go with France. It has, to me, the right level of sweetness. Pardon me, guys. I'm so sorry. The right level of sweetness. If you are not necessarily low on wasabi types, and or you don't care, you're okay with, like, you know, kind of your mouth feeling a little fiery, I would go with Underdog. I think across the board of the 3 of them, I would give the slight nod to Underdog as sushi wine. It's delicate enough with the delicate raw fish. I think the Hush with that body and with that weight might slightly get in the way. But again, it kind of depends on what roles you have. So let me know if you want more specifics. Does anybody else have any other dinner pairing questions? Oh, good. I'm glad John said that about the pictures. I do think, for Sarah, I do think that it is helpful to see pictures. So I have some customers who just take photos on their phone, but then they don't really take notes. And I think they have the intention to use it instead of an app, and they don't necessarily ever do that. So for what that's worth. Saving Hush for bibimbap. That sounds delicious. Yes, please. I'm having bonzo. I'm having falafel. And I don't know that it will even pair that beautifully, but I'm having the Philly Trail because I love it. Oh my God, Desperado Chenin Blanc aged in acacia. If any of you follow me on Instagram and you saw the pictures of the 4 Sauvignon Blancs that I got to taste the other day, that were all aged in different vessels, that is courtesy of dear Alexis and Jason. And I can't thank them enough. It was an absolutely phenomenal tasting experience. So if you want to keep, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. You guys don't have to bring me wine, but I won't turn you down. Are there questions that didn't get answered? Thoughts that came up as you guys were tasting? Anything that you want to cover in the last minute or two? I really appreciate you guys being here on a beautiful August evening. I know August wine classes are a little tricky. August events are a little tricky because I know that it's like we're all so aware of how beautiful it is outside right now and how little time like this we have left here in Wisconsin. So I really do appreciate you guys joining us. I mentioned that we have South Africa class next week. And then it's going to be a little break. Oh, outside with the computer. That's brilliant. I wish I could be outside, but my neighbors, I don't know. I don't know if you know, how quaint it would be to hear things. Thank you guys. I'm so glad. In September, I haven't announced September classes yet, but I've had multiple requests for Portugal and Cabernet Franc. So those are definitely like the next 2 that are up. If there are classes that you guys are looking for, places that you want to visit virtually, if you want to, visit someplace through wine, I'm open. We're going to keep on keeping on with the virtual classes. So I'm up for stuff. And I miss you guys all so much. Seeing all of your names. I love you all so much. And I can't wait to see you all in person see your whole face, show you my whole face. Ooh, an Argentina trip. Okay. Maybe that can happen. Yeah. So hugs and love, and thank you guys for everything. And I'll see you soon. Bye.